Welcome back to the Weekend Warrior Show Recap Podcast. I'm Tyler from the Unemployed Architects, and this week I'm going to be talking about my shows this last weekend, Friday night at Dr. McKay's here in Bloomington, and Saturday night at PK UnKorked in Pontiac. So Friday, I decided to go in pretty early to start setting stuff up since it was an in-town show, and I was off all day. So then Laurelyn worked till 3, so I decided to go in at 2 to start setting stuff up for the show. And then I figured, she'd be done around 3, and I would go pick her up on the way back to our place. So I went around 2, ended up and had a couple snags right away. My mic stand I've been using was broken, and I ended up and messed with that, trying to fix it for way too long. And then when I couldn't, I ended up and went to Kidder and got a new one, some new cables, because I was a little short on cables. And then back to McKay's to set everything up. Didn't get quite as far as I wanted to on the setup front. I didn't get any of the lights plugged in, and I didn't really test anything. There were a couple, I forgot a speaker stand as well, so that was slightly annoying, but how that goes. It's always something. But anyway, so this was a show that both Dave and Lo were coming to. I actually just got a new kick drum, so this was going to be the first time that I used that. And earlier in the week when I was practicing, we practiced on Tuesday. We tried to get some pictures done also, but it was the first time I used it that Tuesday because I just gotten it, and I had my boss, who's a drummer, set it up for me, helped me get it sounded good. We got it back to the house, and we played for maybe about a half hour, and I just could not get comfortable with it, which was kind of scary because I was gonna play it pretty much at both shows this weekend, and I don't know. You just expect, if you've been doing the kick drum for a long time, that a new one won't be a big deal. And it's something I think guitar players probably take for granted, because percussionists, a lot of times they, drummers especially, a lot of times have to use somebody else's kit, and, maybe they're using somebody else's kick pedal, and, it is crazy how much a half-inch makes a difference. So I spent a lot of time trying to set up the kick pedal so that way it felt comfortable. And then I didn't have the one I was going to use at the weekend yet, so I was using one from the store just to kind of get comfortable with how it sounded and everything, but I just could not get a feel for it. So then eventually, 2 days later, I got the kick pedal that I had bought to go with the kick drum, and I knew from the practice on Tuesday that I was going to need to really spend a lot of time with it to try to get it set up to a comfortable spot. But anyway, so I got it pretty set up and pretty close, and then it felt more natural. But it just blew me away, how much these little adjustments on the kick pedal really made such a difference. I was so used to using a cheap kid kick pedal for a child's drum set, but it's nothing like an actual kick pedal. Pretty much, I don't know. The thing is too is since it's an actual kick drum, it's a lot more dynamic than the one I was using, because I can play quiet, I can play loud, and it kind of springs back a little bit more with the pedal, which is actually a good thing, I think, ultimately. But it was allowing me to do some stuff that I couldn't normally do with the little one. So that was fun. I could play it a lot faster, and that helps me end songs when I can do kind of the triplet eighth note on that big endings of songs, and it kind of drives it home. But anyway, so a lot of Friday night at McKay's was just me kind of getting comfortable playing that. I wasn't thinking I was going to need to mic it because it is way louder than my other drum, but with Dave and just the crowd, the room noise I ended up, and I did mic it. I didn't put much through the PA, but I put a little bit just a touch to kind of bring it up a little bit, and I feel like that made Dave play more solidly because he could hear my kick drum and stay with it. But overall, I mean, the show was good. It just it was a rough setup, because I had to go there. I set up for over an hour before, like at 2 o'clock, and then we got back at like 6:15, and I set up pretty much until the time we were supposed to start. So, I mean, it just was a lot of setting stuff up. But the show itself was fun. I kind of found myself holding back a little bit because, I had a show the next night, and it was a 4-hour show, so I didn't want to have no voice the next night, which I find out the next night pretty much that's all in vain. But anyway, so Dave probably brought a good 10 to 12 people out, and they were awesome. There was a lot of his friends from work and just some of his buddies, and they all were super supportive and super into it. And they were dialed in the whole time. And now that I'm thinking back on it, I'm like, I wish I would have not held back as much, because I should have gave them the show that they deserved. I don't think it was bad or anything. I just could have pushed a little harder. We did end up and do a 4 or 5 song encore. So and that was rough because that was after 4 hours already, and then we played another 4 or 5 songs at the end. Lowe brought a couple people out too, which was cool. So every once in a while you get a show like that where it's everything clicks, and maybe it's the weather, maybe it's the moon, I don't know, but everybody comes all at once, and then you're in. If it's sounding okay, which it was, I think it was sounding pretty good, and it was sounding pretty good, so it kind of worked out that everybody came to a good show. But anyway, so that was Friday night. Saturday night was almost, I would say, not the exact opposite, but definitely close to the exact opposite, because like I was saying earlier, Friday was kind of everybody decided to come. Saturday, everybody decided not to come, which we've played a bunch of really packed shows at PK's, and I've played my fair share of not so packed shows at PK's. It's always, a good experience. I like the people there and everything, so it's not really a big deal. But and when there's nobody there, and I've mentioned this in previous podcasts, you can try some weird stuff that maybe you wouldn't normally do. So I was playing a bunch of new original songs. My brother was there, so I was kind of playing a bunch of new originals on his behalf so he could hear them for the first time. And, they all didn't go great, but it didn't really matter because it was just, at the first section, it was really just a practice show. I do feel like I figured out how to do sound there. I say that now, but talk to me in a month and I'll probably say the opposite. I could not figure out the sound there. But anyway, I think the key is I use the Yamahas again, and I put the speakers really high. I put the one that we used as the main, really high on the stand, and that way it kind of shoots over everybody's head a little bit. And I think that allows you, since it's a small room and it's a loud room, so it doesn't take much to fill the room. So I think having the speaker really high, you're not blasting anybody with the vocals and the guitar. They just kind of hear the secondary kind of sound of the room. I think sometimes you need to have the vocals and the guitar kind of blasting people because, if the room is a big one, a lot of times the biggest complaint, you hear is, oh, I can't hear the vocals. And if the speaker's up high, all they're hearing is the sub, or the woofer of the speaker. So everything sounds a little bit more muffled than if you can hear, the whole speaker pointed at you. You get all the highs and the lows. But Anyway, so it sounded pretty good. It was we were definitely erring on the side of quiet because usually I don't play my kick drum there, but I just gotten the new one, so I'm trying to get comfortable playing it. And Blair played there last week too, and I figured he probably used his Beat Buddy, so I figured, if he can use that, I could probably get away with the kick drum. I dampened the hell out of it though. I mean, I've had, I think, 4 hand towels in the kick drum, and then I put a full blanket in there as well, and then I put some fabric around the actual beater of the kick pedal to dampen that even more. And then the tap shoe, I was using electrical tape to like close the tambourines. I pretty much just left one little jingle on the tambourine, and then on the bottom side of the tap shoe, I put electrical tape over the taps to dampen those a little bit, which I think came out with a nice effect. It was definitely a very I played a lot more laid back songs too, because I since there wasn't a lot of people in there to kind of absorb the noise. I didn't want anybody to be frustrated that it was too loud, and so I kind of adjusted the songs I played and the way I was usually play, because usually I'm with my left foot, I'm really, really stomping, but that, the tap would just, on the wood, would just be way too much since there wasn't a lot of people in there. But anyway, so I got to play like a lot of new originals and some of the covers that I haven't been playing as much lately, just kind of working them out. But again, they were kind of the slower, kind of quieter end of the spectrum. And, it never really picked up too much. I mean, a lot of my family came, which was very, very nice of them, because they've all seen me 1,000 times, and I'm sure it's boring at this point to kind of come out and see a similar show. I mean, none of my shows are ever the exact same, because I never keep a consistent set list, and I change it up. I try to write new songs, I try to learn new songs. But I mean, even if you're seeing me once a month, you're hearing a lot of those same songs, and they've been doing that since I was like probably 15 or something. They've been so supportive and just super nice about always coming out and spending time listening. And sometimes my expectation is probably a little bit too high of that, and I try to recognize that nowadays when they say, "Oh, I can't make it." It's like, "Oh, you've made it to so many shows that you don't have to apologize anymore if you can't." I understand. It's cool if you can. It's great. I like having you there, but if for some reason you can't make this one, there's always another show that you can go to. But anyway, so the show ended up, and there was a little rush, like, of maybe 7 people that came in, and they really dug it, but they were only there for 40 minutes or so, and there was another couple here and there that came in, but it was overall a pretty slow night. But you just got to take those as is, and hope that next time it'll be busier. It was like the first nice day in a long time, like I said earlier, so everybody's probably trying to do stuff outside, and it could have been worse. It could have been we sounded bad and there wasn't very many people, but we sounded pretty decent. Got to try out some new stuff, and the people that were there enjoyed it. So, it was a good workout for the new kick drum to kind of get used to using that. So that was the shows this weekend. This next weekend is going to be a little bit of a weird one, playing the double night show in Davenport, Iowa, and in between there on Saturday morning, I play in Pontiac for the Run for Respect, which is early, like 10. I think it starts like 10, so I'll have to play the Friday night in Davenport, drive home, get a whole new sound, get my other sound system, and then in the morning on Saturday, drive to Pontiac, play for a couple hours, pack everything up, go back to Bloomington, pack that stuff up so that way I can fit stuff in the car on the way home and drive to Davenport, play that show. Sounds like this one, I don't know who's all coming. It's going to be me for sure, Laurelyn, Dave talked about coming Saturday night, and surprisingly Blair is talking about coming Saturday night as well. We kind of talked a little bit. He seems, I don't know, he's probably still going to continue to do his own thing, but I think he was just kind of bored and he wanted something to do, and, you know, it doesn't, in the spectrum of things, it doesn't matter if we play together sometimes, even though he's not maybe as big of a part of the band as I want him to be, but, you know, I always enjoy playing with him, so it'll be an interesting night to see kind of how that unfolds. We actually talked about maybe doing a podcast after that show on Saturday night. So, you know, I'll talk about all the shows of the weekend, and then we'll kind of all come together to talk about that last one since we'll all be there. So I say that a lot, but it rarely happens because by the end of the show, you know, especially on Saturday night when, you know, you've done all Friday night and then, you know, I play Saturday morning, play Saturday night, pack everything up. It's just going to be, I'm going to be a little bit worn out, but it sounds like we might stay there Saturday night. So we'll see how that goes, but that seems to be the plan as of now. Anyway, I appreciate everybody who took the time to listen, and hopefully we'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good one.